Hello. One of the questions that I get sometimes having to do with takeoff in particular is the material and site improvement manager. So I thought that I would do a recording here to kind of show some of the features, show how to create a library, and how to manipulate one within a project. So start off, if you have a project open, if you go to the takeoff menu, you will find under Site Improvements, Material and Site Improvement Manager. Okay, now this is a separate program that runs within Business Center, and this allows a person to be able to manipulate and to change the materials, the site improvements, whatever it is that they happen to be using for a takeoff in particular to assign these as site improvements or whatever they may need to. So to get started here, we can open a new external library, or we can create a new external library. We can open an external library. We can save an external library as. We can create a new material and site improvement one. We can copy from an external library. We can delete, we can expand all, or we can collapse all, or we can go to help. So to start off, let's open an external library. So by default in your computer, if you go to the C drive, if you go to Programs, Program Files, scroll down to Trimble, there's a Business Center HCE folder. If you open that and come down to Support and go to the IV folder, you will see there are two that come with the Business Center if you do not already have one in the project you are using or in the template which you have opened. So we have one that is in feet, so I'm going to select that and open it. Now once I select an external library, it opens this down here under my external library. So there are two distinct libraries, one being used within my project and one being used within that is an external library. So the external library that we imported or that we opened has some materials. So under materials, which is kind of a grouping, you've got materials and you've got site improvements. You have categories. So they have a category here for asphalted concrete. If I open that up, they have actual materials in here. They got type 1 concrete, type 3, type S1. Under cement and concrete, they got 3,000 psi, 4,500 psi. Under the earthen, you can see the things which have been created under the earthen. They've got a clay, fine sand, copy of that, coarse sandy gravel, fine sand with shell fragments, fine sandy clay, etc. Under the earthen, they have some materials. The landscaping, they have some. Paint and striping, some subgrade stabilization. Okay, and then they have the site improvements. Now, site improvements are created using the materials up here in the material portion of the library. So we've got some building foundations, we have some curbing, we have some grassing, we have some pavement, some sidewalks, and some signing and marking. And so these are all things that are within this library, which was an external one that was on the computer that was loaded with Business Center by default. So I can see the external library. There's the location where the library was and the name of the library. So to create site improvements, to create materials is all the same. We're going to go to the category which we want to be in. So let's say that we wanted to look at, for instance, this pavement that we have. Okay, We have medium duty parking, light duty parking, heavy duty parking, existing parking for demolition. And we have parking curb stops. Now, one of the things that we can do is we could add a new one. So if I have this category selected, okay, if I right click and say new site improvement, it's going to make it where I can create a name for this new site improvement. So maybe I'm going to call this 4 and 6. And this is going to be road. So actually I might put my road out in front here. And so what I am doing is I'm delineating that I want a road site improvement. I want it to be 4 inches of asphalt and 6 inches of some kind of a base material. So now I'm telling it that I want it to be an area type measurement. Okay, so these are the different measurement types that I can have. Once I name it, select my type, I'm going to say OK. Now I have the name here. You'll see that it shows up down here as a site improvement, and I can tell it, okay, do I want it to be measured in square yards, inches, feet, acres? Some of them have measured in square yards. And now I can put in an installation price so that if I know for my crew to go out and install this road material that's 4 inches asphalt, 6 inches sub base, I can put a price in here. If I am not concerned with it, I can just leave it alone. But let's say that it's going to cost me $21 a square yard for that material to be put in. So right now my bid unit price is $21. Okay. Now my quantification basis, I can either do it by planimetric area or by surface area. My adjustment, I can either have it adjusted vertically or perpendicular. Now, where this is going to make a big difference is on slopes, because typically you would want to do it perpendicular on a slope, or otherwise your material thickness may not be the correct thickness, especially on a drastic slope. Now, the colors I'm going to say is going to be by layer, okay? And I can assign a color to this, and what this color is going to be is that's going to be what color it comes up whenever I use a site improvement within takeoff, and I assign that to a closed polygon. So for instance, if I chose red, I chose an area that was going to be my road, and I clicked on that area, then it would come in as a red fill, so that I would see, not a red fill, but a red coloring would fill in that closed polygon, so that I would know that I had used this particular site improvement. Now I can choose my layers of materials here. So now under material, if I click and I choose my materials, let's say that I'm going to use my asphaltic concrete type 1. Okay, I'm going to give it a layer name, so I'm going to call it concrete, or probably call it asphalt. Then I'm going to give it a thickness in inches, so I'm going to say this is 4 inches. So that's going to be my top material. And if I were to come up here and look at my materials, this type 1 concrete, here's the color that it is given, here's the cost, and here's all the different things that have to do with that particular material. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to assign it 6 inches of some kind of a base. So if I look in here and I try to find some kind of a base type material, so maybe what I want to use is, I don't in particular see a base material, so maybe what I may want to do is I may want to create a new material. So I may come to these materials and say I want to create a new category, and I may call this fill material. You know, I can call it whatever I want, but just so that you know what it is and you can keep track of where it is. So for this fill material, I'm going to create a new material. And I am going to call this 3/4, and I actually want to add the word base to that. Okay, so there's my 3/4 base. It's going to be measured in volume by cubic yards. I'm going to say that a ton of this material is going to be 1 cubic yard is going to be equal to, I don't know, let's say 1.3 tons. Okay, well, this is just an expression. It's a conversion factor so that I know that 1 cubic yard of this is equal to 1.3 tons. And I'm going to say that it costs me $65 per ton for this material. And then the color I'm going to pick for the shading, I'll just pick this color here. It looks good for a base type material. And now, if I come back down here to my road site improvement, I will now be able to add that 3/4 base under my fill material. Here's my 3/4 base. Choose it. It says that's the name of it. I'll just say that that's base. And I'll say that I want 6 inches of that base. And so now I basically should have a 10-inch subgrade created by this site improvement, which would be my road 4 and 6 under my pavement category. Now, these materials in this external library, the reason I'm doing it in this external library is now if I want to save this, so I could do this as save as. I can put in today's date. Library, I'm going to say that it's in feet. And so I know it's one that I did. I'll just put my initials with it. And now this is one that I can either send to someone. Here's where it's going to be located. I can do whatever I want to do with this library. But now if I save that, say yes, so it's going to let me save it in this folder here. So what I may do is go to my documents. I have a $ Business Center HCE. I have an MSIM library folder created, and I'm going to save it in there. So now if I wanted to open that for another project or whatever, send it to someone, I've got that. Now it's not going to be available for me to use in my project at this time, you'll notice, because you'll see that I do not have this fill material. So what I have to do is click on it, right click, say copy from external, and it's going to move it up here into my site improvement manager up here. And then the other thing I would want to move, so under pavement, I've already got some pavement category up here. I would just simply say, okay, I want to take that and I want to copy it. Now my road 4 and 6 would be available for me to use anywhere where I happen to have and or need that site improvement itself. Now hopefully this kind of little tutorial has been helpful. If you have any other questions, you can contact me at cphillips, PHILLIPS, at scitechrocktmtn.com. Shoot me an email and I would be happy to explain this further to you. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.